Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our season 3, episode 4 reaction and review for the Traitors US. And we have to just start off here by being very sad. We have both lost in the span of one episode the two people we were the most rooting for this season.
I know. I saw Jeremy go and I was like, oh man,
Uh,
Matt's heart's gonna break. And then Bob, oh my queen, got eliminated. I understand why it happened.
yeah,
But at the same time, I don't like it. It's just the way that it is. I was really rooting for him.
it's a really weird feeling coming out of this episode because I'm really sad about the two people we lost because I think they both bring a lot in terms of good television.
Yeah.
I'm also just very entertained by what we saw. Like, I think this is one of the best roundtables I have ever seen on any edition of The Traitors. It was an incredible sort of volleying back and forth between Bob and then Boston Rob. Like, all of that was great.
Absolutely great television. However, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my hard hat on for
All
the
right.
comments.
All right.
I just think that this was a huge mistake for Rob to do this. It has, for me, I feel like put a target on him. We saw Wes talking about it after. We saw Tom talking about it after. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, you're the man. You're a legend. You're a this, you're a that. Absolutely. It was legendary TV and it was super fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I think it's put a target on him way earlier than he needed to have on him. I mean, I know a lot of people want to see him stick around for a while. He did not have to go after Bob. I understand why he did, but
Yeah.
he didn't have to.
The most interesting overall takeaway through these first 4 episodes is, with the exception of, I guess, Carolyn, who seems like she's doing all right.
Yep.
These traders are pretty terrible. Like, they're all making all of these mistakes all over the place. Like, Danielle may end up being okay, and we'll get into that. I think she got very lucky with a couple of things that happened in this episode, but I just think, like, big picture, we're not watching superb trader gameplay, and that hurts my heart as
Yeah.
somebody who really likes Danielle and wants her to do well.
I really want Danielle to do well, but like, I know Jeremy's gone. He was one of the people that really was suspecting her. But I mean, at the same time, he's told people about his
Yeah.
suspicions. So Nikki is out there circling around. She didn't get rid of the entire problem.
All right, well, we'll get more into both of these eliminations, how they happened, who's playing well, who is clearly playing terribly. But hit that subscribe button now because we will be here through all of the Traitors this season with more reactions, reviews, gameplay breakdowns, so much more. We do not want you guys to miss any of that. And for those of you who asked, we will be covering this upcoming season of Survivor. It's been a little while since we've been in those waters, but we are swimming our way back.
Absolutely. And I know that there's been some people asking about Big Brother as well.
Yeah.
We are feeling like we are probably coming
Mhm.
back for Big Brother. It's January. So we don't know what's coming up as well in the
Yeah.
summer of how much we're going to be able to cover Big Brother. Is it going to be a lot? Is it going to be medium? Is it going to be a little? We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
But our plan is to be back for Big Brother. So hit that subscribe button.
Okay, let's start with Danielle and Jeremy, and we'll go in relative chronological order here because I don't want to spoil what season I'm talking about because, I know there's not everybody out there has watched every single international version known to mankind, but there's only one season that I can think of off the top of my head. I've not seen all of them. I haven't seen all the Canadian versions, but there's only one season I can think of where somebody who is a traitor gets rid of somebody who is openly targeting them and it hasn't come back to bite them in the butt almost immediately. I understand where Danielle was coming from in the sense of Jeremy is a threat. Jeremy is somebody who's coming for me. If you've seen him on Survivor, he's very likable. He's very persuasive. He could get people on his side. It's a risk to keep him in the game. But at the same time, do you really want to amplify the target on you this early in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, did she need to get him out? Yes. Was she probably hopeful he hadn't really spoken to anybody? Yeah,
Yeah.
and if he hadn't spoken to anybody, this would have been a fine move to make for her because then it's like you've taken out the problem and no one's going to really think that it's you. My biggest surprise was actually just seeing how emotional Carolyn got over this move. I
Yeah.
think because when she came into the Survivor world, as she was talking, she was
Hmm.
just like, it felt like a family. It was like, welcome to the family. We're
Yeah.
all part of something. And, we've covered reality TV for a very, very long time,
Yeah.
either here at the channel or on our website. We've been journalists for 13 years and we've been to a lot of events and
Hmm.
have seen that in reality communities where it's like the Big Brother people feel very close, the Survivor people feel very close. And to see that real emotion come out of her where she was just like, I don't feel good about this at all.
No.
Like, we lost Tony. I didn't feel good about that. Now I don't feel good about this. It's like all the Survivor people are all getting kicked out and how much it really meant to her to be part of that family. Now she feels like she's betraying somebody.
Yeah, it's sad and it's heartbreaking because I mean Jeremy is a guy who's pretty much liked by everybody,
Right.
on screen and within the Survivor community. To see him go like this, yeah, it's really, really tough, and it's going to put Danielle in a particularly hard situation. I feel especially bad for Jeremy in that I don't think he necessarily played terrible. Like his biggest mistake was just telling the wrong person the wrong thing. But when you're playing a game like the Traitors, you have to tell somebody something because if you just, keep to yourself the entire time, eventually everybody's going to be like, okay, are you just not saying anything because you're a traitor? You have to sort of like pick and choose. It's not like he did something where in the middle of a challenge he stood up and like proclaimed people to be a target like somebody else this season. He tried his best and he just made a mistake.
He did. I mean, even when he was in the coffin and trying to be like, I will do
It
anything
was
you
so
need.
funny.
It was so funny. But as a traitor, I'd be like, okay, he knows that one of us is a traitor.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's throwing that out there as just this last sort of Hail Mary that we would believe him. But there's no way. It felt like the minute he said that, he needed to be taken out.
Yeah, I honestly think that the moment Jeremy got put into one of those, I think he knew he was probably going to be taken out
Yeah.
because he's just a former Survivor winner, legendary player. So he already knows he said Danielle's name. I think he must have figured, okay, it's come back to her. Now, here is where I think Danielle gets particularly lucky in this instance for a couple of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We had this big cliffhanger that we were losing our minds over in episode 3, where it seemed like Gabby had kind of figured it out. And now it seems like, okay, is Gabby kind of walking all of this back?
Yeah, Gabby had figured it out.
Yeah.
And I think it's just she's from a reality show that is not really a gaming show. She's from like a romance show.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you're in there with Survivor players and Big Brother players and other people that are gaming and you're just kind of like, okay, I think I know what's going on, but it feels like she's just not trusting herself, which
Yeah.
is too bad because she had actual real proof of what is going on to be like, okay, I went in there, there's nobody
Yeah.
there. Then I hear, the bookcase, I hear Danielle's voice. I was already suspicious. Now it's confirmed. And she was smart enough to be like, I need to not walk into this room. They will not be able to see me. We see her at breakfast sharing this information. And it was so weird to have everybody be like, Danielle? No, it can't be her. I'm
Yeah.
like, Gabby's the person who's bringing the only real solid information that's in this game so
Yeah.
far. This is real evidence.
Yeah.
And it all got washed away as soon as like they were like, okay, we all need to talk about this, who was in this back room. And Danielle had made the smart decision to go back in there with other people to then come clean and be like, yeah, I was in there with Dylan. I was
Yeah.
in there with whoever, right? And then all of a sudden Gabby's like, of course, sitting back and being like, okay, well, I guess I'm wrong then. It was like, oh, you weren't wrong.
Danielle just did enough course correction to get her off of her a little bit as a target. Like for me personally, and this is just somebody who knows and respects Danielle's game immensely,
Mhm.
the moment that she got so choked up and emotional earlier this season, I would have just been like, okay, you're a really big gamer. I would not think you're going to like have this big a reaction to anything. I would be suspicious of Danielle, but at the same time, I'm also well aware of the fact that I like her so much that if I was playing this game, she could probably convince me that she wasn't a traitor, and I would have to sit here and put egg all over my face and own it.
I think it's just tough because she was honest, enough
Yeah.
honest. It's always like the best lies are shrouded in like 90% honesty.
Yeah.
And she's saying, yeah, I was there. I was in there with Dylan. So yeah, we were there. So it feels like it's an entire truth, but it's not because she was also in there killing people.
Okay. It's time to move from one sadness to the other.
Oh,
Bob. Bob.
I don't think I'm ready for this talk.
It's hard because he Bob is so incredibly charismatic and likable, and he's just such
Yes.
a great person to watch. But I think Bob, and this the funniest thing about this whole Bob and Boston Rob debacle, I think the two are way more similar than either one of them would ever probably admit, because I think both of them like being the center of attention. I think they both like having an element of control. They fashion themselves leaders. And I
Mhm.
think in Bob's case here, he just wanted to continue to assume this position with everyone without really thinking anything through, where he's just in the middle of this challenge, standing up and being like, the three people who are in cages, one of them is really big trouble. It's just like, what are you doing, man?
I didn't understand at all why he decided to do that without backing it up and being like, and I think it's Wes or I
Yeah,
think it's Derek. Like, it's fine if he had said something like that to everybody, as long as he was like, and it's not Rob.
yeah.
Like, there just had to be more to it than that. Why would you say something like this? And this is where we get into the difficult conversation about Boston Rob and how I think he made a mistake doing this.
Yeah.
I understand after that Rob is like, nah, I'm not having this. You're not gonna basically put my name out there. It's one of three people. I'm one of those people. I'm working on a team with you, and you're gonna be like, one of the guys in the cages is a traitor. Well, I'm one of the guys in the cages and I am a traitor. So thanks a lot. That he was then gonna go about this in some way to get Bob out. Now, at first, when he said, I'm gonna have to do this in a way where it's not me
Mhm.
that's straight up being like, it's Bob.
Yeah.
I need to get other people to get the ball rolling. Going to Dylan, great move. Dylan has had Bob in his radar since the beginning. Dylan is such a dark horse that
Yeah.
nobody's looking at, and they should be. He's very smart, he's very intuitive, and he figured out Bob so early on. And I know now he's under Rob's thumb, and even at the
Mhm.
end of it, where it was like, great job, Rob. Yeah, Rob. Woo, Rob. Even Dylan was like, yeah, if it wasn't for Rob, like, I'm just like, guy, like, have some confidence in
Yeah.
what you're doing because you are playing a good game. You do understand what's going on. I know you're not from also a gaming reality background, but you are on to things. And I think if you just had a little more confidence, Rob deserves the credit for getting Bob out, but so does Dylan.
Yes. Dylan deserves it.
I just feel if Rob had done what he said he was going to do at the beginning, which is get everybody else to rally together to get out Bob and not have it be him doing it, he would have had a way better shot of afterwards, not having Tom and Wes sitting in the other room being like, yeah, he said he's 100% sure that Bob was a traitor. And the only way you're 100% sure is if you're also a traitor.
Yeah, he handled this really, really badly. And there are a lot of different things psychologically we could say about Boston Rob through a lot of this. But I'm going to try to look at this from my experience watching Boston Rob on Survivor and or Amazing Race and or Deal, whatever that show is called. I watched that too. But
He's on everything.
Rob's whole game plan these days is that he is really good at controlling and running around people who will be sheep for him.
Mhm.
He is great at doing that. He's a puppeteer for puppets who don't think for themselves. And that's why he did an amazing job on Redemption Island,
Mhm.
because, a lot of the people he was playing with were newbies to reality TV. He could do that to them. And Deal or No Deal Island, he had some luck on his side. But here, these people are smart. They're savvy. And whenever Rob is with people who aren't underestimating him, which happened on Survivor All Stars, but when he is with people who are almost equal to him strategically, he doesn't know how to change his game. These people are not sheep. They're not going to follow him. And I think he can't ever get out of his own way when it comes to that. Like, he has this whole thing of, if you're not with me, you're against me. And it's like, he says that all the time. It's like, Rob, it's not all about you. You are not the main character in all of this. This was a very entertaining move. I very rarely have I ever seen somebody go back and forth at Rob in the way that Bob did. I give him all the credit in the world for that. Here is where I think Rob should have done this, and that I agree with you that he should have just continued to plant some seeds.
Sneakily.
Yeah, sneakily try to make some things happen. Like, maybe you go and have a conversation with Bob at some point and be like, hey, after this, can you put out one of the other people's names? Like, do something
Right.
to make it feel like, all right, you're not talking about me. You made a mistake, but I'm giving you an opportunity to correct it. Because in my heart of hearts, and Bob can come out and say something, and I could be totally off base. I don't think Bob was trying to get Boston Rob out at this particular point.
No, not even for a second. I don't think that he thought that. I think he just said something to try to be like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to move the target off me. He's playing Wes's game. I don't know Wes very well because I've never watched a challenge. It's not my thing. Well, I've watched like 5 minutes of an episode and I just wasn't into it. But Wes is playing the game of, as long as it's not me, which is a really great way of playing the game, because as long as it's not you, you get to the end, sort of thing. And I think that Bob was putting that out there as sort of like, well, I need to make sure that people aren't looking at me because people have been bringing me up. And I think even though he knows Rob was in the cages, I think while he was saying it, he kind of like was like, oops, I forgot that Rob was one of the people that were in the cages.
Yeah, I don't think Bob had any sort of malice. I think Bob was just talking and just doing what he could to get it off of himself. Now, what Rob should have done is just, if the numbers aren't there this time, it's okay. Because we have both seen enough of the Traitors to know, once your name is out there, very rarely, and it does happen, but very rarely is it ever a situation where you just eventually disappear. Right. Let the faithful get a couple of things wrong. Let them try to get rid of Nikki this instance. Let them get rid of Ciara. Let them get rid of one of these other people, see that they're wrong, and then eventually they're going to be like, okay, Dylan, you've been pushing this for so long. We're going to finally listen to you. And then Rob doesn't have to worry about this at all. You can do this a couple of round tables later. You don't have to wait until it's like really, really late in the season. Just buy a little bit more time.
Rob was pushing it so hard
Yeah.
that if I was one of the players in the game sitting in the library, like some of those pushes were so hard that I was just like, this feels like it's coming out of nowhere, or it's coming out because, Bob said what he said, everybody heard it, and nobody even was like, is this why Rob is coming really hard? He said it's one of the guys in the cages. Then in comes Rob, all of a sudden being like, oh, it's Bob. We all got to look at Bob. It's just like, where's this coming from? Like, is it just revenge because of what Bob said? Or is it because you're both traitors? There was something that Bob said in his speech at the table before he left.
Yeah.
He said, people are afraid of me, but more than anyone, the traitors are afraid of me and want me out of this game. And he said it right in the back and forth with only Rob. Like, he might as well have just said, you're a traitor, Rob.
Yeah, there were echoes of last season with the way that Dan was kind of going at Phaedra at a certain point, where you walk away from that and you're like, okay, something is clearly amiss here.
Right. This is two traitors that are having a fight.
Yeah, and if you're Rob, too, you also got to be cognizant of the fact that the target is already going to be on you, because Tony left, you allowed Tony to leave, you went ahead and joined that sort of plot, you then allowed Jeremy to leave, so the two other Survivor winners who were a part of this season are both gone and out of the game, and neither one of them are traitors. These people probably know that they're going to make a Survivor player a traitor, because it's what a lot of the GameBot viewers out there want to see. Like, these people are experienced. If you're Alan Cumming, the producers, you at least want one traitor who you know is going to be good at the job.
Yeah, if I came into this cast, I would think that there's a Big Brother person that's going to end up being a traitor, and
Yeah.
there's a Survivor person that's going to be a traitor. And now you've got Tony and Jeremy.
Yeah.
That only leaves two options. It's either Carolyn or it's Rob, and in this case, it's both.
I know.
So if you decide to target a Survivor person, they're going to go. It's the exact same strategy that they had at the beginning of this,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, there's 4 housewives, one of them's got to be a traitor, right? And it's like, well, there's 4 Survivor people, one of them's got to be a traitor, right?
This whole situation is the embodiment of one of my top 10 favorite memes of sad Wario within the background being like, I've won, but at what cost? Congratulations, Rob. You got rid of Bob, who I mean is a big target, and he's immensely likable, and there probably would be a lot of people who would want to keep him around long term, but it's just the way you went about it. I would be stunned if Boston Rob makes it past another 2 or 3 round tables. Like maybe he can get through one more, but I don't know how much further he's gonna go because of this.
Well, especially because Danielle is extremely hurt. I mean, Bob was her ride or die, and her writing down his name, you could see that those were real tears. She was really broken about that. She really didn't want to be forced into this situation. Rob forced her into this situation. And, listening to her and listening to Carolyn basically be like, we thought we were a team and we're not. Rob is running the show. We can't have that. It's not okay. That it's just like, okay, well, how are they now going to be able to get to Rob? Because like you said, Rob's game is to get people around him that he think that he can manipulate to be like, oh, I'm the hero. I got out the traitor. People who are not gamers typically, like a Dylan, are going to be like, yeah, thanks for backing me, man. I got you. You got me.
Yeah.
We're here for it, sort of thing. And he's starting to gather those people around him now. So it's kind of like, are you going to get the numbers to be able to actually do this at this point? You gave him too much power.
Yeah.
Now he's got the power. Now you guys are just screwed.
I feel hopeful they can find a way to take him out. And this is where I don't know a ton about Wes either. I've seen a little bit of the challenge, but I mean, not so much where I can consider myself an expert by any means. But from what I know about Wes, seeing Wes and Rob go head to head, like I'm putting that on my dream board right now. I just want a confrontation like this every episode. Now I have been spoiled.
Yeah, Wes, I really like Wes. Again, I haven't seen the challenge. I don't know what he's done over there. So, you guys can let me in the comments if he's like not a nice guy or a great player or not player. But here he does feel very much like he's a good player, that he is somebody who is quite intuitive. For him to pick up on that, even had to like straight explain it to Ivar to be like, he said 100%. Oh, well, nobody knows 100%. Yes, they do. Traders know 100% because they're a trader. I was just like, oh my goodness. You really shouldn't have to explain it quite that hard, but you do. And he picked up on it so quickly, quickly.
Wes he has a lot of experience in these games. I mean, the thing about the challenge, and at times this is one of the reasons I get frustrated by this show, is they just bring the same people back a million times, but eventually you probably build up a lot of strategic aptitude doing that. Now, here is where I'm going to need to have a little bit of Derek therapy with everyone out there.
Uh-oh.
You guys are all my therapist. You are my therapist. Okay, here's the thing. Do I still think that Derek is boring as a reality TV personality? Yes, it's hard for me to back off of that. Am I always going to be annoyed about how it felt like in Big Brother 16, which he dominated from start to finish? I will give him all the credit in the world for that.
He did.
It felt like he was lying to us in the diary room a lot, and that really annoyed me. I just wanted him to own his game a lot more than he did, and maybe I've always held it against him. But I am sitting here watching him play right now, and I am blown away by him. I think he is going to win this season still. I think that what he is doing is the perfect model for how to play the Traitors, in that he's an enormous threat. He's undefeated as a reality TV contestant. And I know he's only played the one time. That's a big reason why. But he's smart enough to know, okay, I'm not going to go back to these things a million times because I'm a big threat. They're going to target me. But nobody is talking about him as a major target at this point. He's lowering his threat level while at the same time doing something that Dan did not do. And this was one of Dan's big mistakes, not really being willing to say anything. Derek comes in here and he does this whole spiel about Ciara. And yeah, his rationale is ridiculous and he's totally wrong about what he is saying.
Yeah.
But at least he's saying something. He's making people feel like he is actually fighting. And eventually, maybe this will help to get Ciara out. But if you're Derek, your end game has to be at this point, okay, I'll get CR out because I'm targeting her. Boston Rob is going to sink his own ship. Maybe Danielle's got a little bit of heat on her. Carolyn's, notably from her time on Survivor, can be erratic. Maybe she'll sink her own ship. If you just sort of lay back, make a few moves, let these other people blow up their own games, all of a sudden, Derek is in like the final 7 or final 6 of this game. And I think Derek is just so good at this that he can easily win if he makes it to that point. It's not what I necessarily want to see, but we all got to be realistic here.
He could win. I would say, though, that if I was in the game and I was in this episode and I was in that challenge where they were putting together the heads and the statues, after this, I would have suspected that Derek is a traitor. And the reason why I would have suspected that is because he was out there helping everybody else get their heads up there, get their shields, not him. And he didn't seem like he was very worried about getting a shield. And typically that can be, you know, a bit of a key to you're not worried because you know you're not going to get murdered. And him just doing that, I was just like, why wouldn't you have made sure that you secured your own spot before helping anybody else? You put on your own mask before you help anybody else. I was just like, he's running up and down this hill helping everybody else, and you didn't get a shield out of it at all. So why are you so comfortable?
It's really...
And I know it's wrong. Like, obviously he's not a traitor, but I would have been like, I don't understand this.
It's really funny to me because it's what you've just pointed out is like one of the reasons why if I was playing the game with Derek and I was duped by him, I would be so mad after the fact because I didn't pick up on that while I'm watching it. But you're totally right, because this is also something Derek did in Big Brother 16.
Right. Yeah,
he just kind of was like, I'm this out of shape guy who's working in like parks and recreation or whatever. He made up some stuff about it. He just made himself out to be kind of just like this ho-hum, slobbish, like, you know, dad figure who is not that intimidating. And he's doing the exact same thing, and it's even working on me.
Yeah, no, it's 100% working. I could absolutely see him winning this game. But I mean, there's some people that I'm really rooting for. I know Gabby was on track and then she got off track, but I think if she can find her confidence, I know that Dylan's kind of like circling her. So I'm a little bit worried about her, but I think if she can get her confidence together, she can get herself to the end of this. Dylan, I was really thinking he could get really far in this game, and he probably will with Rob beside him. But like, I feel like he could have gotten even further if he didn't have Rob beside him. I was really like, oh man, I can't wait to see more of Dylan's game. But now Dylan's game feels like it's going to be very tight to Rob. And that's kind of a bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah.
Because he was someone who was a bit of this rising star in this game for me, of like, wow, he's so intuitive. He's really picking up on things that even, you know, I wouldn't have picked up on. It's amazing. And this episode for me was the Wes episode. Like I said, I don't really know him from the challenge or from anything, but him picking up on the fact that Rob was like 100%, the way he was acting, and that he's unafraid to call out Rob. I was just like, I really like him. I like you, Wes.
I think gameplay wise, it's pretty easy for me to want to root for Wes too at this point. I mean, I will always have plenty of affection for Brittany Haynes, and I want to see her go really, really far, though it is also very weird. We are 4 episodes into this season, and the person probably best known for entertaining confessionals in Big Brother history has really just not been on the show at all.
Yeah, I mean, she had the one that I very much related to, where she was just like, man, I thought I was going to be a monster going up this hill, but my Peloton skills have not helped me with my arms. I'm like, girl, I feel that.
There are 2 things about this challenge before we get out of here that I want to illuminate. I mean, one of them was I really like the stuff with Bob Harper. I knew him from Biggest Loser a long time ago, and you know, because his reputation is that he is a trainer, that everyone's gonna think he can do almost anything. I don't know him very much outside of the context of that show, but I thought that was a really great human moment. The challenge itself, I'll ask you, and I want to know everybody in the comments too, is we're going to give a ton of people shields. There's too many people who have shields at this point for me to even remember. But is this actually making the challenges valuable? Because I think most of us can agree the challenges are the most useless part of this show, and a lot of times they don't even matter.
Yeah, they are definitely, for me, making them more valuable. I mean, it's making people work harder. People are willing to leave money on rafts, but
Yeah.
they're not willing to leave a shield. They are willing to do anything to get a shield. And that definitely feels like people are putting more into it. I would have done terrible in this challenge. I do not like exercise. I do not like running. I'm not going up a hill. I'm fine to not have a shield.
We would be the first two contestants in the history of the Traitors to be murdered by the hill, as opposed to the Traitors. Ellen Cumming would just
Exactly.
walk up to us, just splayed out on the ground, be like,
You have been murdered.
"Yeah, we have not achieved this challenge. We are immediately gone." Now, I'm enjoying this a little bit more. These challenges, it feels a
Yeah.
little bit more like the Mole, which I really love the Mole, and I've always advocated the Traitors should be a little bit more like the Mole. On the Mole, they don't tell you who the Mole is. I don't think the Traitors is ever not going to tell us who the Traitors are. So this is as close as we're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, when I very first saw the Traitors season 1, I
Yeah.
had kind of hoped that it would be like that, where they weren't going to tell you who they were. And us as the audience, we also had to guess.
Mhm.
This is so much better.
Yeah, it's really great to kind of get the feedback, the real-time interaction. And yeah, this has been a season of terrible Traitors other than Carolyn so far.
Yeah.
We'll see where things go. There'll probably also be new Traitors at some point, but thank you guys for hanging out with us, discussing the Traitors. We want to hear your thoughts, who you're rooting for in the comments. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss any more coverage. Also, join our Patreon. We have a link in the description for that. We are covering exclusively in video form over there, The Pit on Max, which there's a new episode of The Pit airing at about the same time as the Traitors. And coming up, we also have Prime Target on Apple TV Plus. Thank you so much to our
Thank
patrons.
you.
We'll see you here next time.